What is going on, everyone? My name's Boit, and I'm back with, well, another AOM tier list maker. This one's been being asked, being suggested, so we're going to do it. So this is the units tier list maker. This means there's no myth units. This means there's no... well, there are heroes, but it's about the units here, ladies and gentlemen. You notice that we've got some villages in here as well, so we're going to compare them all. I think the best way to kind of go about this, to like order it all, is to just do it by unit type. So if we start off and we say, well, let's get ourselves some sort of a base ground to compare everything to, why don't we start off with what I think is a fairly solid unit, and we'll just put it into a fairly solid category and say, this is what we're comparing everything to. The Hoplite is kind of a really good unit. It's really good it's even better with Zeus, obviously, but in every other situation, it's got uses. You're going to see it in pretty much every single game. Even Poseidon, who has stronger cavalry, is going to want to use hoplites from time to time. So it's definitely one of the stronger units here. We've got a ton to get through. So we're going to go through all of our infantry units and compare them. And we're just going to go straight down the line, straight infantry units, not counter-infantry. We'll do it kind of that way. So we've got the spearman here. The spearman is, I'm going to chuck into B tier. It becomes nearly S tier, I would say, if you have all of the upgrades for it. But without those upgrades, it's a really, really lackluster unit in terms of its performance. So even with all the upgrades, maybe it only becomes A tier, next to just below maybe Hoplite. So I'm going to chuck it in here for the simple reason that those upgrades are hard to get, and it becomes a late game unit kind of thing, and you have to put a lot of resources into it to make it get there. The next one would be the Ulfsark, which, as I'm trying to find it, there it is actually slightly better than the spearman, if not A tier. This depends on if you are playing as Odin or the other Norses. If you're playing as Odin, this Ulfsark is a vital unit in your army composition against the Atlanteans, and some other situations as well. Now, because it's just Odin, I'm going to put it slightly above the spearman instead of slightly below the hoplite, because of that simple fact that the Ulfsark is kind of needs to be Odin. But you can find super value in a similar way that the spearman gets by getting all the upgrades with the Ulfsark. Or by going like Bragi, getting all your upgrades there, going Tia, getting Berserker Gangs, Swine Array, Call of Valhalla for Bragi to get those upgrades, plus the Berserker Gang. This Ulfsark can go into S tier with all the upgrades, but as it's the case that I'm not doing it based on the potential of the unit, more so where it sits and its overall utility. It's going to be sitting in that B tier, just slightly above the spearman. Maybe we can even chuck the spearman down to C tier, but I think because of the potential, it's going to be better to compare these roughly similarly. I think they're pretty similar in their utility. And then we come over to the Murmillo. The Murmillo is essentially the same as a Hoplite. I don't see any difference between these units. A Hoplite, slightly better in some areas. The Murmillo is slightly better in other areas. Ends up being a very, very consistent unit that is really, really strong. Then we have the Halberdier. Where is our Halberdier? This unit here, it too has the potential to become strong, but the potential actually only goes up to about an A tier. The upgrade called Unbridled Anger is an upgrade you can get in the Heroic Age as two of the Chinese civilizations. But this unit here, it doesn't have the stats to compete with the Hoplite or the Murmillo. And it is a little bit stronger against cavalry, so it's more of a harder counter unit than the Hoplite Murmillo, but its stats are slightly lower. It's a little bit sad in that regard. It has a little bit of potential to get up to that A tier, but you need to get put the upgrade into it, and it's not going to be as strong as like the Spearman or the Ulfsark in the late game either. So for that reason, it might actually be the worst of all of the infantry units. In fact, if you go even Halberdier versus Ulfsark, the Ulfsark are probably going to win that fight there. So there is that thing. So that's almost all of the military units. I believe there's one or two more to go. Where's the Myrmidon City? I don't see the Myrmidon. Oh, there's the militia. The militia. Hey, militia. We're going to put the militia in C tier. It's free, though. That's a little bit different. The militia is effectively like 9/10 or 8, maybe 1/7 worse than a Hoplite, I believe is what I actually worked it out to be. But it's not as good as any of the other infantry units. If you actually could train militia and they actually cost what they would cost, the Hoplite would probably still be the pick. I believe it would cost something like 50 food to make this unit. Obviously pretty good if you don't have gold, but the extra gold ends up making sense. Now, I swear there's a Fanatic here. I found the Fanatic. We're going to keep searching for that. I found the Myrmidon. Yes, Myrmidon, S tier. This unit is bonkers. It costs 2 population. It kills nearly everything. It's one of the late game comps you really, really want. So fantastic. Beyond that, we've also got the Fanatic, also S tier. This unit is very comparable to the Myrmidon. The difference is that the Myrmidon costs 2 pop and the Fanatic costs 3 pop. However, they both function incredibly similar. The Fanatic has a little bit more damage and more utility than the Myrmidon, but because it costs 3 pop, I'm going to put it slightly below the Myrmidon. Like if I was playing Atlantean and I were to pick Myrmidon or Fanatic, even the Myrmidon also does damage versus buildings, I'd pick the Myrmidon over the Fanatic, but it's only slightly, because the Fanatic can be also used against Greek, so it's only slightly better in that respect. And then there is one other infantry unit that I have just spotted, the what is this called? Catapulti? S+! Kinda. It's a funny unit. I actually don't know where to put this one. It's a ridiculously good rating unit. I would say it's actually a counter archer unit in a lot of respects. Like it beats out on Terma, for example, because of its speed, but it doesn't beat anything really on this list in terms of raw stats, apart from speed. So it is a good rating unit. I put it maybe above the militia, below everything else in terms of overall utility. It's kind of a meme unit, maybe a meme unit, maybe not. I don't know what else to say about that one. Let's continue down the line of the standard units before we go into the counters. So we'll go to archers next. We've got a chariot archer here. This is an S tier archer. It costs 3 population. However, it's got range, it's got damage, it's got HP. It basically beats out on cavalry as well if they don't have upgrades. It's a ridiculously strong unit, and it's going to be in the S tier category. Moving down the line, the next archer I see is the Arcus. The Arcus here, this is an A tier unit. It's got the range of a chariot, but it doesn't have the damage of the chariot. And I mean, it's basically a staple in the Atlantean army come heroic age. People used to think that this unit wasn't so good way back in the day because of the stats looked a little bit underwhelming, but when it comes down to it, the ES ensemble developers were actually bang on with this unit. Very, very useful. If you put some destroyers in front of them, they start becoming super value, and that's the vibe where that's concerned. Bogswagger, S++++. unit. In fact, this unit is arguably better than the Chariot Archer on the fact that it has bonus damage versus myth units as well. Costs a little bit more than the average like Toxotes, but you get that value completely by the fact that, well, one, Norse economy is stronger than everyone else in the game. The Norse has got the strongest economy in the game because of the hunt bonus, which means that they can have more villagers on wood and be fine. They also have like farming upgrades and things like that. Their food is insane. Point is, and they also get the gold income. So the point is that the resource differential doesn't really matter. This unit, very, very strong against literally everything, apart from like counter archers and units that have high pierce. But bonus damage versus myth units, it should be a staple in every single Norse player's heroic age army. If you're not using this, you're playing the game wrong, in my opinion. Now, this one, I don't know if I should put this into the archer category. It's in the counter-infantry category. Let's not. Let's go on to the next one. Chokonu! This unit depends on which patch you're playing on. I'm going to pop this in the C category. This depends on which patch you're playing on. If you're playing on the Meta Plays patch, this becomes the same tier as a Toxotes. It's effectively exactly the same as a Toxotes. But if you're playing on 2.8, this unit I would stay away from. Very rarely would I want to build Chokonu as China. I think it's a very, very poorly made unit. It doesn't function very well as an archer at all, and you've got better options to deal with infantry than the Chokonu as well, I would say. Moving along, we should find ourselves the Toxotes here, and the Toxotes is in the B tier. The Toxotes, in my opinion, the only use for the Toxotes is if you're going for a hard classical fight and you want to be doing sort of like pressure hit and runs on your opponent's low range units. So for example, and also obviously in fights, it's pretty good if you're surrounding your Toxotes with hoplites, for example. They're going to be able to sit there and be really, really strong. So, I mean, in comparison to all of the other units, I wouldn't really use the Toxotes very often unless I'm Athena rushing. It's kind of the only vibe. If I go for boomy play, I stay away from Toxotes, go more heavy on food units, and that's where I'm at. And that's the vibe. I think that's... Oh no, there's this one, the Gastrophede. I don't actually know where to put this. This unit doesn't function as an anti-infantry unit, but it is technically an anti-infantry unit. It's technically just a straight archer. Is it better than a Toxotes? Is it better than an Arcus? Because it takes down buildings as well, but I wouldn't... Oh man, it's hard. This unit is a anomaly here. It's not D. It's definitely better than a Chokonu. I definitely see the value in building this unit, but I would probably find myself building it much less than a Toxotes and more in the B category, simply just because I wouldn't use it as a counter-infantry, just as a building. It might be better to rank this with the siege weapons, as in hindsight, I'm going to rank this with siege weapons instead of archers. I've decided it is more of a siege weapon because there's a reason for this, because I'm also going to be ranking the Fire Lancer as a siege weapon and the Destroyer as a siege weapon instead of as an infantry unit. Makes the most sense. Okay. Onwards and upwards, let's do cavalry. The first cavalry I see is the Camelry. Now, this unit depends on if you're playing Ra. If you're playing Ra, it is S tier. If you are playing Isis or Set, it is B tier. That's a big difference between the two. And the reason is because you get a whopping, I think it's 20% difference in stats with playing Ra. Huge difference. That's like an extra line upgrade or more in terms of stats. I could be wrong. I might be 10%, but either way, the difference is that. So don't get me wrong, if you jump to the end of the video and you miss this straight away at the start to see where everything is, if this is Ra, Set, if this is Ra, it goes in S. If it's Isis or Set, it's B. The Hippocon, this unit is arguably the strongest cavalry unit in the game. I might change my mind on this as I'm thinking about other cavalry units, but not only does it have the potential to be incredibly strong with Thracian Horse's Spirited Charge buffing the stats, but also it's strong from the get-go. Like, it's really good in the Classical Age, it's really good in the Heroic Age. Getting the upgrades makes it really good as well. Super strong unit. So I'm going to pop it up in the S tier. Oh, we forgot a unit here as well. Where is it? Mercenary Infantry. S tier. Costs no population. Costs only 70 gold. Ridiculous unit. All right, well, that's fine. You don't need to think about that. The only reason I remembered that because now we've got the Mercenary Cavalry. Also, S tier. This unit is S tier. It is the best. This is actually the best cavalry unit. It's got the most stats. It costs the least resources. It does kill itself, but as you will know, it's useful in the heroic age when you could build it. It's useful in the mythic age. It's useful for the entirety of the game. It's obviously a very, very strong mercenary unit. However, its weakness is it can only be used for defense, right? Wrong. If you've got a forward town center, you can use it for offense as well, or close third town centers. This unit is bonkers. And I think everybody knows that. Come on. Raiding Cavalry. This unit, while it does have utility, compared with all of the other cavalry units, it's of the vanilla civs, it's the worst one, right? It's the worst one. We see it be built a lot because you have to, effectively. It's a good raiding unit, but if you match up against if you match up against Hippocon with raiding cavalry, they're only good if you've got a lot more raiding cavalry. And that ends up being how it works. Because the raiding cavalry only costs 2 population, it can compete with the Hippocon at 115 of 115 population. But yeah, I'm still going to put it in the C tier even with that bonus fact of being 2 population. If I was playing as Norse, I would prefer to have the Hippocon. I reckon is a fair statement there. Feel free to say that I'm stupid in the comments as well. That's completely fine. Now we've got the Contarius. The Contarius is similar to the Hippocon, but it gets unlocked in the heroic age, and the actual utility of it ends up like not being that good. You get access to like sort of similar things to what the raiding cavalry gets in the Poseidon secret technology that you get through Thea, and also get Lance of Stone, which makes it be a little bit more value. It is technically as good as the Hippocon, but because it's unlocked in the heroic age and not in the classical age, I feel like it loses a lot of value. And maybe I'm going to put it just slightly below that cavalry there, because maybe not obviously. I feel like if I was playing as Atlantean, I would prefer to have the cavalry unlocked than the Contarius in the heroic age if I had a choice. So I'm going to pop it in that B tier. And then we've got the Scout Cavalry, I believe, is one of the final ones. The Scout Cavalry is trash. I barely want to build it against Atlantean, and in fact, I might not even build it against Atlantean. It might be better to just go Immortal Halberdier against Atlantean. The idea is that China wants to go like kind of a similar strategy to what Greek does, where they just go for infantry cavalry against the Atlanteans' infantry terma or Murmillo terma. But in the end, even on meta plays patch, I feel like this unit is still kind of underwhelming and useless after what I've recently seen. There are a couple more cavalry units that are special units, so let's take a look at those. We've got, let me just see, we've got the War Elephant. Boom. S tier unit. This unit is a cavalry unit. Funnily enough, it kills buildings. It's got ridiculous stats. It is one of the best cavalry units in the game. If you get upgrades, especially, it's got the potential to be ridiculous with Thoth, but also it's really, really good just by itself. Adding a couple of these into your army can be huge. The cost for this unit is gigantic, but it definitely pays for itself for the vast majority of the time. It's a hugely great counter archer unit as well. And I just feel like it's kind of a misunderstood unit. Super strong, super good. Definitely want to be using this unit. The Jarl here, this Jarl here is definitely really strong. Like, I think it's better than the cavalry. I think that the weakness in the Jarl is just simply because it comes out of the Hill Fort, which you can't build very much of. It trains fast. It's a good unit. It has potential to go even stronger. I mean, so too does the cavalry, but the Njord will be able to push this even further with the help of Freya. It's really strong. It kills myth units as well. So super good unit to have in your army. And there is one more, I believe. Let me just make sure I'm not missing any. Oh no, there's this one, Hatairoi. Oh, the poor Hatairoi. There's going to be some very, very sad. There's going to be some very, very sad Poseidon players here. This unit here, it is technically a siege weapon, and I should put this into the siege category. But if I put it into the siege category, I would put it in the D tier. So I feel like it'd be nice to give it a little bit more help in that C tier. Worse than the raiding cavalry, can take buildings down, does have a little bit of utility, but it's definitely not a good unit to be basing your compositions on at all. It's more of a side build. Just run them in and have them die to buildings. And even then, it's probably better to just build siege if you can. Even on extended edition versus Weebly where they got a buff, it's just a sad unit. And then we get this unit. This unit I don't know what to do with. I don't know what to do with this unit. This unit is actually really strong. It's the War Chariot. It's actually really strong. It's comparable to the War Elephant, in fact, in terms of it. No, it's not. It's not. It's got to be C tier. The problem with the War Chariot is it comes in the Mythic Age. It comes only out of the Palace, and it costs 200 resources. So a mythic unit means you can't build it early. It's a cavalry unit, which means it's weak to towers. Towers come up at about start really starting to appear in the Mythic Age with like guard towers, sort of upgrades with crenellations, and therefore this unit becomes useless. The only utility I see for this unit is potentially on a map like Anatolia, where you can hyper accelerate into the Mythic Age and be able to build this unit really early to get control of an area. But even then, yuck. Mythic Age unlocked cavalry is really, really, really useless, really bad, really dumb. So that's the cavalry done. Right, wonderful. Moving right along, we've got ourselves the Counter-Infantry Axeman. S tier counter. This unit's bonkers. I don't need to talk about why this unit is bonkers. It counters infantry ridiculously. It also is cheap and just insanely strong. The next one is the Hypaspist. Not as good as the Axeman, but still pretty damn good. I don't need to talk about that as the stats just kind of speak for themselves. Throwing Axeman. Ooh, this one's difficult. A throwing Axeman costs wood, which brings it up. And the question is, would I rather have a throwing Axeman or a Hypaspist? And I think the answer is Hypaspist. I can't make my mind up on that. The thing is that the throwing Axeman gets has that potential to go up with Thunder with the Huntress Axe. So, but that doesn't. It's just such a sad unit. It's such a sad unit though. But it's so good at the same time. Is it actually S tier? Oh, I don't know what I don't have a good answer for this one. I'm going to leave it in the A tier below the Hypaspist, but I feel like there's an argument that it's also S tier. Just because it's ranged, it has potential to be stronger, and it costs wood, which could all be like really, really good things. Moving along, Counter-Infantry, where is it? It's a horse unit. I'm literally blind. There it is. Cataphract. Cataphract. This unit's kind of yuck. It's not that yuck though. Yeah, it's kind of that yuck. Compared to the other ones, it just costs so many resources and it's super underwhelming. And yeah, I mean, it kind of is okay against archers as well, which is its redeeming factor. So it's not as good at actually countering infantry, but its survivability is a lot better. However, if your opponent does make these units get cataphracts, the raiding, like the cavalry will just completely annihilate them. And they become useless in that respect. And then finally, was there one more? Did I miss? Yes, I did. This unit, the Caraballister. This unit is just too squishy. It does have some utility, but I would rather have every other counter-infantry unit in the game than have the Caraballister. It's a very defensive unit. It can really slow down rushes, but or slow down enemy infantry, but I just feel like this is an underwhelming unit. All right, counter archers. This is the weakest unit in the game, and as that's the case, I'm not going to be putting anything into the S tier, even if it is S tier unit. We have the Peltast D tier. This unit is useless. Do not build this unit ever. It is worse than the Scout Cavalry, indeed, but that's neither here nor there. The next unit, we have the Slinger. This unit's decent. I'm going to put this in the B tier. It's decent. It set has some utility with this. This might be the best counter archer in the game. I mean, technically, the Fire Lancer is the best in the game, but we're going to be considering that a siege weapon. And do we have any other counter archers here? The Huskarl. Oh, the Huskarl is actually S tier. Oh, good. This isn't actually a counter. Well, it is a counter archer technically, but it's an infantry unit, so that's why it's good. That's why it's good. Fantastic. It's got crazy amounts of counter archer shenanigans, which makes it so insanely strong. I think that's all of the counter archers. Yeah, oh no, Terma. Oh, the Terma's A tier, I guess. It's not. It's only A tier because I'll put the Terma in B tier above the Slinger, just because it's not close to the Huskarl in terms of how good it is. It's just not close. Okay, that's it. And then we have Counter-Cavalry. Now, Counter-Cavalry are also kind of in a similar tier to Counter Archers, and they're just kind of a little bit underwhelming. So again, I don't think we're going to be seeing any of these in the S tier. Now, we do have the Prodromus. This has got good speed. It's really good at killing cavalry. It's terrible against everything else, obviously. Like literally any other unit apart from cavalry, you don't want to be using it against, which is why Counter-Cavalry is kind of underwhelming. The Catapelti is actually the best counter-cavalry unit in the game, but because of its speed, it's going to drop down to B tier. That's the only reason. It's really, really good against counter-cavalry, but the cavalry will see it and just leave. That's why it's sad. That's the only reason. And then we have this unit here, which is the Mounted Archer, which is an absolute disastrous unit on the fact that it doesn't actually counter cavalry because it can't hit the cavalry. Simple. It's useless. Okay, and now I believe we will move on to siege. So the catapults. These are catapult for Greek and Egyptian. I'm going to start this off with the best siege just to give something to compare to. The Heliopoli is the best. It kills buildings. It kills units really effectively. Therefore, it's the best. We've got the Egyptian catapults. Remember, this is the Egyptian catapult. It is an A tier. It is the best ranged catapults in the game, or the best ranged siege weapon in the game. We've got the Greek catapult, which is very, very close behind the Egyptian catapult. The only reason I put them different is because obviously the Egyptian catapult is better. I'm going to keep going with the ranged siege here. The Onager, I don't use this very often. It's only good if in the very, very hyper late game when you are doing like cheeky like, oh, my catapult's behind wall strats and you need to use it. And if you're playing Atlantean, you probably don't want to be doing that. The Chinese catapult is comparable to the Greek catapult, I would say. This is where things get difficult. The ballista I actually rate the ballista, but it's similar in it. Yeah, I rate the ballista, but not. I think even Norse players would agree that they would prefer to have the catapult. But then the question would be, if I was playing Greek, would I rather have the ballista? I think the answer is actually yes there, because it's really easy for Greek to set up defensive structures and then sit the ballista behind them, as opposed to the Norse not being able to. But that's neither here nor there. That's not possible. So you're playing as Norse, so it becomes a little bit sad. But it is good. It is good enough. So we'll put it in B tier. And then we've got the Siege Tower. This is a strong siege weapon, but more and more am I being sad. This is making me sad because enemy villages just kill it so easily. You need to use shifting sands with this most of the time to make it actually have effect, because by the time the siege tower gets in and onto its target, it's normally being attacked. If you can get it onto the target before it's being attacked, it starts being useful. The Fire Siphon as well is going to be in this B category. Most of the siege weapons are relatively equal. And now we've got also this final couple. We've got the Gastrofidi, which I think is not quite as good as this range siege. But it's cheap, it's mobile, you can build it out of an archery range, so you can get some good side builds with it. It's still useful, but it's not as good as the siege here, so I'll put it in the C category. And then finally, I believe we've got the Fire Lancer, and this is going to surprise a few people. This is an S tier unit for the Chinese. This is a must late game unit, a must have late game unit, a must heroic age unit. The idea is that this unit is essentially a ballista without the shitness. It doesn't die that fast. It costs not very much. You can mass it easily. It's really good against units, really good against buildings. Can hold a position amazingly with towers. It's insanely good unit. Insanely good. And we've got this unit. Yeah, the portable ram is better than the Onager, but not as good as the siege tower. It does have the potential to become better than the siege tower with Balder, but it's a sad unit without that, and that's a thing. We also got the destroyer, which I would probably rate in this B category. It's probably better to put this in with the infantry units and just call it a B tier anyways, but it's a very, very strong unit. You see it every single time with the Atlantean civs. Super good. Alrighty, let's take a quick look at what we have left. We've got heroes mostly left. So let's rank the heroes. Fantastic. S tier heroes. Bellerophon, S tier. This unit's insane. It's a really, really good raider. Really good at killing myth units. Fantastic. Polyphemus, S tier. This unit is better than the Bellerophon, I reckon. It's good at killing buildings and myth units. And has ended up being incredibly, incredibly useful. The Perseus, unfortunately, D tier. This unit costs way too much for what it does. It's too weak. One hits myth units, yes. Dies in one hit, basically. Also, yes. Not a good hero, unfortunately, because of those reasons. The Immortal, S tier. This unit's insane. You get 8 of them. It can shoot arrows at archers, and it doesn't miss. It's insane. This unit might even be better than Polyphemus and the Bellerophon. Let's continue with the Greek ones. Okay, yeah, let's go into the heroic age. Atlanta is... We're going to put Atlanta at A tier. It's not as good as these heroes here. And we're going to put the Achilles in... Achilles in B tier. Costs food and wood instead of pure wood. I would put... If this was all wood, then I would put it the same as Atlanta. But because it costs food, it's not as good. It is tanky, so it lasts a little bit longer. But the speed from Atlanta kind of makes up for that anyways. And then we have ourselves the Heracles, just kind of underwhelming. It's tanky, but it's kind of underwhelming. It's not as good as Achilles. Obviously, if you were playing Zeus, you would prefer Achilles or Atlanta. So there's that. Going into the classical age, I actually feel like Chiron is the best of the Greek archers, Greek hero archers, and then Odysseus and Hippolyta are kind of similar. Odysseus a little bit better because of the HP situation that you get for playing Zeus, but it's kind of not noticeable most of the time. And then again, Ajax is the best. I mean, all of these are kind of exactly the same, so I don't know where to put these. I'll put them in the B tier. They're all exact. I guess Zeus is the best because he gets the bonus, but yeah, they're all kind of the same. And then we get ourselves Heroes of Ragnarok. Obviously, this unit is S tier, but you can't really choose to build it. The stats are insane, and it's just an insane unit. The Hersa. Obviously Loki, if you're playing Loki, it's an S tier unit, but if you're playing Thor or Odin, if you're playing Thor, it could be decent with Hall of Thanes, but I'm just going to put it in the B tier with the potential. It could go up to S tier if you're playing Loki, but B tier for the Norse players. Hersa just they feel underwhelming because your opponent can kill them super easily with Counter-Infantry, and also they don't counter speedy myth units at all, like Sphinx, Centaur, Anubites. It's just a rough time. All right, so the Pharaoh is a S tier unit. I don't have Son of Osiris in here, so Son of Osiris should be in here as well. Son of Osiris, obviously the best hero in the game. I'm putting this in the A tier because I don't think that you can really compare. Fair is hard to compare. Obviously, insanely good at killing off myth units, but it needs to be empowering, not being in your army most of the time anyways. All right, so we've got the monk here. This is a D tier unit. You don't want to build this pretty much ever anymore. On release, it was S+++, but that's how things go. The priest here, B tier, I guess. There are strategies where you want to mass this with ISIS, but you need to get a technology to make that happen. But even then, it kind of is cheesy in a way. The Oracle heroes are better than the monk, but nah. General, I have never used. I see some people. This isn't really a hero, but I'm going to class it as a hero for reasons that I can't really articulate right now. But that's the case. The general, I have never used it. I don't know if it's good or not. Costs a lot of resources though. Can be used with call to arms. You can call to arms the general, but it's kind of Arcantos, and it kind of is an Einhyar, and that's kind of it. But it costs tons of resources, so I don't even know. And then the meme one, the best villages in the game. Got the dwarf in the S tier. We've got these villages in the A tier. These villages. Oh, actually, there. We've got the laborer down here. And the question is, where does the citizen go? The citizen goes in the S tier because it's insane. I'm not going to explain. That's just memes. That's my tier list. We took a long time to do this one, but hopefully you guys enjoy it. I'll hopefully, if you've got any disagreements, which I'm sure there will be, let me know in the comment section below what those are going to be. And if you like these tier list videos, let me know, and I'll see and give me some other suggestions to do them. I'll see how I can go. Anyways, my name is Boit. Hit the subscribe button, and I'll see you guys in the next one.